Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Chaplain Abel Show. I hope everyone has been having a pleasant day. Well, our message today is entitled, Holding On to Your Faith During Difficult Times. Have you ever asked God the question, why, God, are you allowing me, or my loved ones, to suffer like this? If you have ever gone through some type of emotional, spiritual, or physical pain, then chances are you have asked or thought about this question. That question went through the minds of Darrell and Claretta Gustafson. This God-loving, dedicated Christian couple was infertile for many years. Despite exhaustive medical tests and procedures, they prayed consistently for God to grant them the privilege of bringing a child into the world. But the heavens were silent, and the womb remained barren. Then one day it happened. Claretta discovered that she was pregnant. God had spoken at last. A healthy baby boy was born 7 months later, and he was named Aaron, after Moses' brother. This child was their pride and joy. When Aaron was 3 years old, however, he was diagnosed as having a very dangerous form of cancer. What followed were 10 months of painful chemotherapy and radiation treatment. In spite of all the efforts to arrest the disease, Aaron's little body continued to deteriorate. Despite many prayers and countless tears, Aaron went to be with the Lord in 1992 at 4 years of age. And so the question echoed in Darrell's and Claretta's mind, why, God, did you allow our precious child to suffer like this? Folks, in the Bible there are many reasons why we experience pain and suffering. We suffer because of the nature of sin. We suffer so that our character may be built up. We may suffer because God is showcasing us to Satan like he did with Job. But the message that I'm going to present today is not geared around why we suffer, but how we can handle it. Today I will deliver 3 crucial principles that we should reflect on when we are suffering physically or emotionally. But first, let's have a little song entitled After the Rain.
When the night surrounds me, and I think it will never end, everyone seems so far removed, even my closest friend. But there's one thing that's for certain, like a rock on the shifting sand, it's a promise of life in the midst of the strife, by the one who's holding my hand. It's as sure as the sunrise each morning, announcing the breaking of day, as sure as the rainbow caressing the sky after the storm rolls away. As sure as the roses that bloom in the spring, when the new life appears once again, this love that he gives telling me that he lives, it's like the sunshine after the rain. When the storm clouds gather and they darken the summer sky, I wonder care about me? And can He still hear my cry? Then a voice breaks through the stillness after the tempest is past, speaking peace to the sea and assurance to me that I'm safe in His presence at last. It's as sure as the sunrise each morning, announcing the breaking of day, as sure as the rainbow caressing the sky after the storm rolls away, as sure as the roses that bloom in the spring when the new life appears once again. This love that He gives, telling me that He lives. It's like the sunshine after the rain. Like the sunshine after the rain. Now the fields are green with the springtime and its promise of life anew. The winter snows have melted away and the April showers are due. The warm earth fuels expectations of life under summer skies. All creation sings of the hope that it brings and a love that never dies. That's as sure as the sunrise each morning, announcing the breaking of day, as sure as the rainbow caressing the sky after the storm rolls away, as sure as the roses that bloom in the spring when the new life appears once again. This love that He gives, telling me that He lives, like the sunshine after the rain. This love that He gives, telling me that He lives. It's like the sunshine after the rain. Like the sunshine after the rain. Sunshine after
Well, the first critical principle during our times of suffering, God is near even when He seems far away. When we experience difficult trials and tribulations, we normally pray to God and ask Him for immediate relief. However, as we all know, God answers prayer in His own time. So we may not receive immediate help from Him. We may have to go through many days, or weeks, or months, or even years of trying times. And after suffering a while, we start wondering why God hasn't intervened. We begin questioning ourselves. What have I done to deserve this? And then we begin to question whether or not God even cares. We feel as though God has abandoned us and that He is nowhere to be found. We feel alone and isolated from God. Have you ever felt this way? In the Bible, many great men of God experienced these types of emotions. For example, David experienced a feeling of isolation from God when he was running for his life from Saul. We read in Psalms 13, verse 1, that David cried out to God and said, "How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long would you hide your face from me? If you read the rest of the psalm, you will realize that David, who was obedient to God at this time, believed that God was not with him during his time of intense trials. He felt isolated from God. Job, who lost everything, his children, his wealth, his servants, his reputation, and his friends, experienced despair and isolation from God. Read Job chapter 23 and verses 1 through 9. Brethren, it is common and natural to feel isolated from God when we experience difficult times. However, the Bible assures us that God is present even when He seems far away. Even when God seems 1,000 miles away and uninterested in our affairs, He is with us step by step during difficult times. A wonderful illustration of this unseen presence is described in Luke chapter 24, verses 13 to 35, especially verse 15. In this passage, two of Jesus' disciples were walking toward a village called Emmaus. They just came from Jerusalem and were undoubtedly very upset and depressed because they witnessed the crucifixion of their Lord Jesus. They were not only discouraged because Jesus was dead, but also because it was the third day and they had hoped that Jesus would have raised from the dead as their Lord promised. They must have given up hope on Jesus' resurrection and decided to head home, back to their old way of life. But as they were walking, something marvelous happened. In verses 15 and 16, the Bible said, as they walked and discussed these things with each other, Jesus Himself came up and walked along with them. These men, who were most certainly experiencing emotional and spiritual pain because of Jesus' death, did not know that Jesus was walking right along with them the whole time. During their time of anguish, Jesus was next to their side. My friends, if we are faithful, God is walking right along with us, especially during our times of suffering, even when we feel isolated from Him. He has not abandoned us, for we are His children, and He loves us and cares for us. We must realize that He is watching over us and is doing what is best for us. 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 7 tells us to cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you. Does this sound like a God who cares little about our problems? When we suffer, we may feel isolated from God, but the reality is that God is with us step by step. Isn't that encouraging news? Not only will God not leave us in our times of suffering, but second, God's timing is perfect with His assistance, even when He appears catastrophically late. When we suffer, we naturally want God to immediately take away our pain. But sometimes He can be agonizingly slow in solving the problems that we bring to His attention. But even though at times God seems to be late with His assistance, I would like to say that His timing is always perfect. Let me illustrate this by looking at the story of Mary, Martha, and their brother Lazarus, as told in John chapter 11. The members of this little family were among Jesus' closest friends during the time of His earthly ministry. In fact, verse